Using your mouth to breathe when you lift is harmful, unnatural, and inefficient, despite the fact that everyone in the fitness industry does it unthinkingly. In this video, I'll be comprehensively and succinctly explaining why this is the case, and how learning to exclusively nose breathe during your training will massively improve your health and fitness. Let's get into it. First, let's make a basic observation. Your mouth is an organ that's evolutionarily designed for eating, and your nose is an organ that's evolutionarily designed for processing the air that you breathe. That should really be a strong enough argument on its own, but I'll keep going anyway. Part of your nose's specialization is that it performs a bunch of mechanical processes that you might not be aware of. Your nose humidifies air, regulates its temperature, pressurizes it, and filters it, all in order to give your respiratory system the best possible conditions to function. Each one of these capabilities is extremely important, and missing out on any of them can cause some very difficult to foresee consequences. Bypassing nasal filtration can make your body increase the amount of mucus that it produces, making your nose chronically stuffy or runny. It also opens you up to general respiratory inflammation, because of all the extra allergens and pathogens you're letting completely bypass your first-line defense mechanisms. The tricky part of all this is that these factors can combine to create a vicious cycle, where mouth breathing creates congestion and chronic respiratory illness, which makes it more difficult to breathe from your nose. Skipping out on your nose's humidifying function dramatically increases the amount of water you'll need when you exercise, and this difference can be huge. Personally, nose breathing lowered my requirements for water during my training sessions by about 4 or 5 times, all while keeping me more hydrated than before with less effort. Lastly, if you miss out on the pressurization step, it's much harder to fully inflate your lungs, making your breaths more shallow and less efficient. While that's bad enough on its own, a lack of pressurization in your airway has another extremely horrifying consequence. It can cause the tissue of your airway to collapse during your sleep, mildly choking you awake and causing a disorder called sleep apnea. Unfortunately, the connection between mouth breathing and sleep apnea is so awful and so deep that it's going to have to be covered in its own video. Until then though, here's the TLDR. Tons of heavy mouth breathing, particularly if it generates a habit where you mouth breathe at rest, almost certainly causes people to develop sleep apnea. Separate from these mechanical effects, how you breathe has biochemical effects too. Nose breathing releases a hormone called nitric oxide. This is in fact not the same thing as nitrous oxide, so I'm sorry, but you're not a race car. Nitric oxide expands your blood vessels and improves your circulation. This effect is known to improve your performance, your recovery, and your pumps in the gym, which is why everyone puts citrulline malate, a chemical that increases nitric oxide production, into every good pre-workout. Your breath is also the primary regulator of how much CO2 is dissolved in your blood, and this dynamic can help us answer a question that you might be thinking right about now. If mouth breathing is so bad for you, why do you have the urge to do it in the first place? That's because mouth breathing is much more effective at venting CO2 than nose breathing is, and this capacity makes it very valuable in extreme scenarios, like emergencies or competitions, because the accumulation of excess CO2 is the primary reason that you feel breathless when you exercise. And so for those circumstances, I think it's totally fine to mouth breathe. But you shouldn't make it a habit, because the exact qualities that make it a fantastic emergency option make it a terrible primary one. Your nose is actually designed to retain more CO2 for a good reason, because it serves important biological functions. If you continually rely on the panic button that is mouth breathing, you miss out on a bunch of the benefits of CO2. Because your body will never adapt to tolerate higher levels of it in your blood. Developing a higher CO2 tolerance makes you fatigue resistant, because you can endure more CO2 accumulation as you get tired. But it also means that your body just maintains higher baseline levels of CO2 at rest. This has the effect of relaxing smooth muscle inside of your blood vessels, allowing them to increase their flow. It also relaxes smooth muscle in the airways, allowing breaths to be deeper and more productive. The extra CO2 also alters your blood chemistry by changing the acidity of your blood. Within the ranges that we're talking about, this is a good thing. It improves the delivery of oxygen to every cell in your body by making it easier for your red blood cells to release it. Now that I've mentioned all these great effects, let me just be clear about this. Switching from mouth breathing to nose breathing during intense exercise will suck, but not for very long. Once you pass the initial adaptation period, nose breathing becomes very natural, and mouth breathing actually begins to feel strange. Within a few weeks, changing your breathing will have unlocked a ton of potential for new gains. You'll find that you're able to train harder, rest less, and feel healthier while you're doing it. And all these factors will combine to make it indirectly much easier to get stronger. However, breathing can also make you directly stronger almost immediately. If you want to know how, check out my previous video on the topic, where I explain a breathing technique I use every time I lift. Like I said, I'll also be making a video on preventing and reversing sleep apnea in the near future. So if that interests you, or you want to see me explore any other topic in health and fitness, then please like, subscribe, and comment, because it really supports my channel. Happy lifting.